Whether directly or indirectly, sport has played a significant role in The Simpsons. Some of the best episodes and moments of the series have been when the family and sports come together, specifically the games of baseball and softball. Almost all of the Simpsons family members have been involved in the games in some form or another, whether on the field or off. In the second episode of the 11th season, Brother's Little Helper, Bart discovers that the MLB have been spying on the general public.
Why is the zero made out of glass?
Who cares?
In the second episode of this 22nd season, Lone and Lisa, Grandpa decides to give the family their inheritance early, though he admits that he lost much of his money years ago after investing in the musical Little Man, Big Dream, based on the life story of Eddie Goodell, who, standing at just 3'7", is the shortest player to appear in an MLB game. Even Lisa and Marge, who aren't big sports fans, have been involved in baseball. For the third episode of the 22nd season, Money Bart, Lisa applies her book smarts to the game as a coach for Bart's Little League team, leading them on a winning streak. And in the twisted world of Marge Simpson, the 11th episode of the 8th season, Marge is indirectly responsible for knocking Baseball Hall of Famer Whitey Ford unconscious when she unwittingly provides an enraged crowd with the perfect weapon to hurl, her pretzels.
Uh-oh, and a barrage of pretzels now knocking Whitey unconscious.
You could call them Whitey Whackers.
However, ultimately, of all the Simpsons family members, no one has had more to do with the sports of baseball and softball than Homer, so much so that his involvement in the games eventually led to him being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Canonically, Homer has achieved numerous unlikely accomplishments ranging from saving Springfield from a nuclear meltdown, climbing the murder horn, and traveling into space. Understandably, having accomplished so many impressive and unusual achievements, Homer has received a number of honors in recognition of his greatness. Some of the awards are just tokenistic, others are effectively meaningless.
Wow! An award statue! Oh, it's a Grammy!
But there's legitimacy to Homer's place in the Baseball Hall of Fame despite his limited contributions to the game on the field, in addition to him being a cartoon.
Matt Groening? What's he doing in a museum? He can barely draw. Ow! Oh no! I'm being erased!
With this in mind, it's fitting that his first high-profile association with baseball was as an unintentional mascot in the 5th episode of the 2nd season, Dancing Homer. In the installment, the nuclear power plant hosts a family night at a local baseball game, during which Homer dances for the crowd and soon becomes the Springfield Isotopes official mascot.
Ooh, boogie, 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 boogie. Ooh, boogie, 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 boogie.
After the team goes on a winning streak, for which he is credited, Homer is called up to perform in the Major League, only for the experiment to end in disaster.
It was so quiet you could hear each individual smartass remark.
In addition to Homer's personal journey in the episode, there are a number of references to iconic things and moments in baseball history. Homer's routines were inspired by the iconic Baltimore Orioles superfan Wild Bill Hagee, otherwise known as the Roar from 34 for his chants, who was prominent at the team's home games throughout the 70s and early 80s. Strangely though, despite his obvious influence on both the premise of the episode and Homer's routines, Hagee was only an indirect inspiration for the installment. As co-writer of the episode, Ken Levine was unaware of Hagee until after the episode aired and fans noticed the striking similarities. Rather, Levine, who also pitched the basic premise of the episode, in addition to being the main writer, had used his personal experience as a former minor league announcer to flesh out the story. So, Levine based Homer's routine on fans he had seen during his time as an announcer who were, themselves, inspired by, if not outright ripping off, Hagee's iconic celebrations. Throughout the episode, Homer dances to Henry Mancini's 1961 song Baby Elephant Walk, which has long been performed at baseball games. Before Homer leaves for Capital City, he makes a farewell speech to the Isotope fans. The scene is a reference to Baseball Hall of Famer Lou Gehrig and his iconic farewell speech on the 4th of July 1939 after he is forced into retirement due to illness.
I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
While in Capital City, Homer meets the team's mascot, the Capital City Goofball.
Right, Mr. Goofball.
Hey, call me plain old Goof.
The Goofball is a parody of the Philadelphia Phillies mascot, the Phillie Fanatic.
He said you don't make fun of me or my ball club.
Following his stint as the Isotopes mascot, Homer did briefly fall out of love with the game of baseball. In the 16th episode of the 4th season, Duffless, Homer agrees to give up beer for a month. During this time, he attends a baseball match only to realize that the game isn't quite as enjoyable sober as it is with alcohol.
The batter is calling for time. Looks like he's going and getting himself a new bat.
I never realized how boring this game is.
Ultimately, Homer's sobriety doesn't last, and his appreciation for baseball returns, at least when the Isotopes are winning.
Even if they lose this game.
They lost! Those losers!
For the 11th episode of the 10th season, Blood Bars Can't Be Broken, Springfield imposes a curfew for children. The draconian measures are implemented as a direct result of Homer and his friends celebrating the Isotopes winning the championship.
Whoop! Careful.
Homer again becomes a mascot of sort for the Isotopes in the 15th episode of the 12th season, Hungry Hungry Homer. In the episode, Homer goes on a hunger strike after the owner of the Isotopes attempts to move the team to Albuquerque, New Mexico. However, the team manages to misrepresent Homer's motivation behind his strike to the public, depicting it as a publicity stunt by a crazed superfan, whereby Homer won't eat until the Isotopes win the pennant.
He's on a hunger strike till the Topes win the pennant.
Ultimately, Homer eventually manages to expose the team's plans, which they then scrap, keeping the team in Springfield, while Albuquerque resorts to buying the Dallas Cowboys instead.
That's a football team, sir.
They'll play what I tell them to play.
For I am the mayor of Albuquerque.
In addition to his contributions to baseball as a mascot, Homer has in fact achieved some impressive feats on the field, most notably in the 17th episode of the 3rd season, Homer at the Bat, which originally aired in February 1992. In the installment, the nuclear power plant softball team go on a winning streak, largely thanks to Homer, ostensibly due to his secret weapon.
I put my homemade football on hold and set to work making the world's greatest bat.
Ultimately, the team make it to the championship game where they are set to face off against the Shelbyville Power Plant's team. Leading up to the game, Mr. Burns makes a large wager on his team against Shelbyville's owner. Despite his team's recent success, Burns still decides to bring in 9 ringers from the big leagues, giving them token jobs at the power plant to ensure his success. However, almost each and every player that Burns hires is unavailable when it's time for the championship game. Still, Springfield manages to win the match, thanks again to Homer. Although the story revolves around a game of softball, the episode is, much like Dancing Homer, a love letter to the game of baseball with numerous references to the sport. Most notably, the episode makes a number of allusions to the classic 1984 film The Natural, about the career of a baseball player with God-given talent. Homer's secret weapon is a self-made Wonder Bat. The bat is a reference to the Wonder Boy bat in the film.
Where'd you get this?
I made it myself from a tree near home.
The scene when Homer hits a ball into the stadium lights is also taken directly from the film. The name of the episode is an abbreviated reference to the 1888 baseball poem Casey at the Bat, a ballad of the Republic sung in the year 1888 by Ernest Thayer. All 9 of the ringers that Burns brings in are real-life pro baseball players, including Roger Clemens, Wade Boggs, Ken Griffey Jr., Steve Sachs, Ozzie Smith, Jose Canseco, Don Mattingly, Darryl Strawberry, and Mike Scioscia, all of whom actually appeared as themselves in the installment.
Well, are you better than me?
Well, I never met you, but yes.
For the episode, Terry Cashman's famous 1981 song, Talking Baseball, Willie, Mickey, and the Duke, which celebrates the history of baseball, was rewritten to be about softball and specific events in the episode.
While Wade Boggs lay unconscious on the barroom tile, pity elder.
Lord Palmerston!
Simpsons staff member Jeff Martin wrote the parody version of the song, but Cashman actually came in to record the new version. The song was later officially released in November 1999 as part of the Go Simpsonic with the Simpsons soundtrack for the show. In one sequence in the episode, there's a stylistic travel montage during which the Springfield team go from city to city by train, which is an homage to the 1942 film Pride of the Yankees. In one scene of the episode, Homer's workmate Carl tries batting with a piano leg, which is a real-life reference to Norm Cash, who once tried to bat with a table leg.
Norm Cash came to the plate in the 9th with a table leg instead of a bat. Umpire Luciano made Cash use a real bat, but table leg or Louisville slugger, it made no difference.
At one point in the episode, Bart and Lisa taunt Strawberry.
Daryl! Daryl!
The scene is a reference to the taunt Strawberry experience during the 1986 World Series.
In right field, the crowd is tormenting Strawberries, singing, Daryl, Daryl.
In the scene where Burns reveals his plans to bring in the ringers, his list includes real-life players, though, as Smithers points out, they are no longer available.
I'm afraid all those players have retired and passed on. In fact, your right fielder has been dead for 130 years.
To underscore the joke of how out of touch Burns is with the game of baseball, and as an Easter egg for baseball nerds who pause the image of Burns' board, the right fielder Smithers refers to as Jim Crichton, who is widely considered to be the sport's first true superstar back before a professional league even existed. Throughout the episode, Burns constantly micromanages his team, repeatedly making terrible decisions.
You're pitch hitting for me?
Yes.
Additionally, Burns trains his team with old-school equipment like medicine balls and gives the team brain and nerve tonic, which has disastrous results for Griffey Jr.
Good Lord. Gigantism.
Ultimately, Springfield win the championship despite Burns' constant interference and incompetence as a team owner, only for him to convince himself that he's directly responsible for the team's success.
Strawberry, hit a home run.
Okay, Skip.
I told him to do that.
Burns' management style is a reference to the reality that many sporting clubs succeed despite having profoundly incompetent team owners who micromanages everything, such as the Yankees owner from 1973 to 2010, George Steinbrenner, who was famous for meddling with his team at all levels, yet the team still managed to win 7 World Series under his watch.
Lou Gehrig's pants. Not a bad fit. Hey, you don't think that nerve disease of his was contagious, do you?
Evidently, as bad as Burns is as an owner, he's not nearly as bad as Steinbrenner.
Still like him better than Steinbrenner.
The episode also accidentally predicted baseball history, with a running joke about Mattingly and the controversy over his hair.
Mattingly, get rid of those sideburns.
What sideburns?
You heard me, hippie.
Look, Mr. Burns, I don't know what you think sideburns are, but...
Don't argue with me, just get rid of them! Go home! You're off the team for good!
Between 1982 and 1995, Mattingly played for the Yankees.
So here's Draybeck to Brantley off his leg.
Holy cow!
In August 1991, he was suspended because of his hairstyle due to the team's strict rules about grooming, which disallowed players to grow their hair too long.
Hey, don't you get a haircut, you hippie!
Mattingly was one of 4 players who was suspended for violating the rule. All 4 eventually cut their hair, though Mattingly was the last to hold out doing so. When he did finally get his hair cut, he auctioned it off for charity. Homer at the Bat aired after the real-life controversy, but the episode was already deep into production when it happened, and Mattingly had already recorded his part for the installment, so the subplot about his hair was yet another example of The Simpsons accidentally predicting the future. In reality, the idea of Burns being obsessed with his employees' hair was actually suggested by Al Jean, who was a staff writer at the time, and based the idea on the strict rules his grandfather had for his employees at his hardware store. Strangely, Mattingly later enacted his own draconian measures against hair in 2016 when he became the manager of the Marlins. Evidently, as seen in the 3rd episode of the 10th season, Bart the Mother, Homer's batting skills didn't indeed come from the supernatural powers of Wonder Bat, when he struggles to hit a single ball when armed with just a regular bat.
Hey! You're going down, you... Go! Go!
Wow, you sure get a lot of balls for a quarter.
Baseball doesn't just play a prominent role in the Simpsons universe, it's also been referenced in real life. In 2003, 2 years after Hungry Hungry Homer first aired, an Albuquerque minor league baseball team, who had previously been known as the Calgary Cannons, named themselves the Isotopes in honor of the Simpsons after the team relocated.
Albuquerque Isotopes!
Homer was right!
During the 1996 MLB postseason, the Simpsons produced a series of commercials to promote the game. The promos were called A Baseball Moment from The Simpsons.
And now, a baseball moment from The Simpsons.
The shorts feature the family discussing various aspects of the game, with Homer being the only family member who appears in each of the 6 shorts that were produced. In the first commercial, Homer tells Lisa how baseball and being American are inextricably linked.
The World Series. If you don't watch this, you don't deserve to be an American.
Yes, it's like voting in next month's election.
What election?
For the second commercial, Homer explains to Marge why Cal Ripken Jr. is his baseball hero, highlighting Ripken's status as baseball's Iron Man due to the Hall of Famer's streak of consecutive games played.
He played over 2,300 games and never missed a day. My hero.
Aren't you supposed to be at work?
I called in sick.
The third commercial, and arguably the best, features a parody of the classic 1989 film Field of Dreams and the movie's most iconic scene.
Well, where are they?
In the fourth commercial, Bart asks Homer if he remembers when Kirk Gibson of the Los Angeles Dodgers hit his classic home run during the 1988 World Series against the Oakland Athletics.
Do I ever? I'll bet you $200 he striked out.
For the fifth commercial, Bart details how being a baseball player is his dream job.
Get paid $7 million a year to spit and scratch myself.
God bless a little boy's dream.
In the sixth and last commercial, Homer admits to recording a baseball telecast illegally.
She made me do it.
With the motto of preserving history, honoring excellence, and connecting generations, the stated mission of the Baseball Hall of Fame is to serve as the ultimate authority for the history of the game in America with the documentation and celebration of related artifacts and exhibits that honor those who excelled at playing, managing, or simply serving the sport. Given the role that baseball has played in the history of The Simpsons and the direct impact Homer has had in celebrating the game, it's fitting that he'd be embraced by the institution. And in February 2017, it was announced that the Baseball Hall of Fame would officially pay tribute to Homer at the bat, with an exhibition celebrating the episode, while Homer would get the personal honor of joining as an individual with an official plaque. The announcement coincided with the 25th anniversary of the episode first airing. In response to the honor, the Simpsons staff released a statement on behalf of Homer. A month later, during the Hall of Fame Classic weekend, the exhibition was officially opened, and Homer was inducted into the Hall during a ceremony for which a costume Homer was joined by fellow Hall of Famers who had starred in Homer at the Bat, Boggs and Ozzie, along with Steve Sachs. The day began with an airing of the famed episode before Homer was officially inducted.
Dancin' Homer, Hungry Hungry Homer. Springfield Isotopes 1990, Capital City 1990, Springfield Nuclear Power Plant 1992. Inept safety inspector turned citywide softball hero. Right fielder led Springfield Nuclear Plant to city championship game, then sacrificed his body to win it all. Nearly supplanted by lineup of all-world superstar ringers, came through in a pinch and came to in time for the next episode. Girthy right-handed hitter powered many a mighty wallop during celebrated 1992 season with Wonder Bat, his secret weapon. Lack of mobility in the field was no match for moves atop the dugout. Found fame as Bush League mascot phenom, parlaying his elephant walk into a taste of the majors. Unacquainted with scientific concepts, only Isotopes, of which he was aware, played at Duff Stadium, where uncanny knowledge of Southwestern palate exposed team's impending move to Albuquerque.
Congratulations, Homer, and welcome to our Cooperstown family.
The ceremony also included a pre-recorded acceptance speech from Homer himself. There was also a roundtable discussion that featured Boggs, Ozzie, and Sachs, along with Gene and fellow Simpsons writer Mike Reiss, in addition to the director of Homer at the Bat, Jim Reardon, the episode's story editor and author of Talking Softball, Martin, and Simpsons casting director Bonnie Patila. Ultimately, Gene summed up the unusual experience of having little to nothing to do with the game, but still getting inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. The ceremony was followed by the official ribbon cutting of the Simpsons-themed exhibit, which featured Homer at the bat playing on a loop. In addition to Homer's plaque, along with a signed copy of the episode's script, and a VHS version of the installment. Later, the Simpsons were also honored prior to the Hall of Fame Classics Legends game, with his costume Homer given the honor of throwing the ceremonial pitch for the contest. Closing out a truly strange but remarkable day, when a two-dimensional character made the Baseball Hall of Fame before real-life legends of the game such as Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Pete Rose, and, of course, Darryl Strawberry.
Woohoo! Woohoo! In your face, Strawberry!
I never met you, but yes.